Hey.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
I'm
We're
so
excited.
excited.
Yes, we are excited here. I think everything is working. It says that we are live. So, hey there. Welcome to the very first Next Level workshop where we'll be working today on an effective post that sells. Because you guys, that was the top one that you guys asked for inside the poll that we did. If you're hopping on live, say hey. Let us know where you're watching from. If you're watching from YouTube, hey, come join our group. Come be a part of it. Come interact with us. Come get that help instead of being the fly on the wall and just watching YouTube videos.
Right? Be a part of the community. We're fun, I promise.
Yes. We have it together here and there. But as you can tell,
Absolutely.
my lighting is not working today. I'm like, focus, bring in the light. But anyway, so before we dive in case we haven't met yet, I'm Cassie Billingsley, and this is Sarah Lynn Kate. Whoop, whoop. She's
Hello.
pretty amazing. So, what makes an effective post that sells? I'm curious. If you're watching us live, if you're going to catch the replay, put hashtag replay, but drop it in the comments below right now what you think an effective post is. Like, what is an effective post that sells? Do you think it's emotions? Maybe identifying the pain and the ideal target, that your ideal target market person, your prospect, right, is going through that struggle. I can tell you what it's not. So what it's not posting your link and stock images of like, hey, here's my product, here's the link. Now you guys all need to go buy it, right? It's not, I know that kind of sounds harsh because it's kind of what we're taught, right? We're taught that, hey, you just post this stock image of the product and the link and people are going to flock to you. Okay. But it may work once or twice. You may get one or two people, right? But they're not going to be lasting customers. They're not going to be those like having that flow of ready to buy customers. And I'm sorry to tell you this because your link and your post images, they're just not going to do the trick. It's going to appear to them like you're spamming them, right? How many times do you scroll and then it's like, oh, what are they doing? It's spamming them.
Exactly. And actually, so this might be the same person. Sadly, somebody said earlier, does this show my name? No, it does not. StreamYard. But it says this person, something that is personal and shows your results. That's their guess.
I
And
love
I love it. Exactly. Like that's spot on. And here's the thing, guys. If you think we're joking or over exaggerating when, creating a post that sells, by say, for example, I'm trying to find, I don't know why. Here's a bottle of Tylenol, actually, acetaminophen specifically. If I'm always posing with my product, if I'm always creating beautiful Canva images, with my product and I'm posting that on Facebook, my stories, my videos, my reels, my TikToks, like it's going to come across as spam. It just is. And here's the thing that can be a little bit scary about it, is that not only are you going to hurt your relationships with your audience by always putting spam out there, but you're also can trigger Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok to block your URL or
Yeah.
even block your account. It happens all the time. People get put in Facebook jail, people lose their account on TikTok. In fact, a big time company, I'm not going to say the name, but a big time company, all of their specific links were just blocked on TikTok because the distributors were always including their products so blatantly. And it was so spammy on TikTok. And so
Yeah.
the entire company now has to pay that price. That really stinks. So I'm not saying that like to put a lot of pressure on you. There's ways to do it. And the way to do it right so that way you don't trigger a platform to block you and your entire company. And you do that by simply leveraging attraction marketing and creating posts that will help educate your audience, but prompting them to want to learn more. And so, Anne, you had said like By sharing something that is personal and shows your results. Absolutely. By getting more personal, by getting those stories, like that's more attraction marketing versus just saying, "Hey, here is my product that helps me lose weight." Nobody cares. And then instead that just comes across really, really spammy. Now, before we dive into what it looks like to leverage, or create effective posts that sell, I want you to know that you can use this on all different platforms, that what we're going to be sharing with you today. Um, also, here's the thing, that before we even get started with it, I want you to put yourself in your audience's shoes. When they first come in, when they pull up their phone and they log into Facebook or TikTok, the last thing they're thinking about is like, what can I buy today? They're not on Amazon. They're on Facebook. They're on Facebook. They're on TikTok. They're on social media. They're on social media to connect with others, and they're on social media to receive entertainment, education, some sort of value, something to unplug from the world that they're very, very stressed out from, or from their everyday life. And so if you just come on there and your posts are all about the latest sale of acetaminophen, like, nobody's going to care. They're just going to scroll on past. Especially if it's the latest, maybe your company just announced, "Hey, you got 20% off," or it's a buy one get one free. Your cold audience doesn't care. That's something that you could send to your existing customers. Like, we want to be real with this, or different ways that you can share it. So put yourself into your audience shoes. What is it that's going to trigger them to actually buy? Because people do still buy, they just don't initially come onto Facebook or TikTok to buy. So what triggers them? And I encourage you to think about your most recent purchase that maybe you made, or something that you opt into. What sold you to say yes? Drop your thoughts below. All right. What got you to submit your email for a digital product that made you then pull out your wallet and purchase that digital product? What was it that made you buy deodorant? I totally, like, I'm a huge Lumi fan, and I got sucked in through a Lumi deodorant ad, and I've been buying it for the last 2 years ever since. What were those things that they invoked in you that caused you to buy? All right. So I'm going to just drop it in. It's emotions. All right. But emotions that are conveyed through a testimonial or a story. All right. So, Anne, you said something that is personal and shares your results, or shows your results. The last thing you want to do is just spew facts about your results. Instead, you want to tell it in the form of a story. So today we're going to share with you 5 key things that you can leverage, or like a 5 simple parts that for you to create a post or a video that sells by leveraging your own testimonials, leveraging your stories that can then convey these emotions to your audience so that they can connect and or relate to. So,
Yes, I love that. So let's break it down to those 5 simple parts, right? So don't worry, you can write this down if you have your notebook, if you're taking notes. We're going to go through each one of these very specifically. So if I go over them and you're like, wait, what was that one? What was this one? Don't worry. We're going to go through each one of them here in just a moment. So the 5 simple parts that you need is, the first one is you need a hook that states or indicates that you have a problem, right? And then number 2 is, from there, you would then share about how the problem personally impacted you and affected you negatively. And then the 3rd is to state your solution. And then the 4th is, how did that personally impact you for the better? And then 5 is your call to action, right? Because we got to be asking. I know we talk a lot about attraction marketing, but you want them to take action. And that's not necessarily, we'll dive into it because I can go into the whole call to action, but that's later. Cassie, just shut up. So if this makes sense to you,
you're just excited.
I know, like, let's go. If this makes sense to you, drop a 1. And we're going to go through these one by one and kind of give you that meat of it, of what that actually means.
Yes, the meat and potatoes. So let's break it down even further. Let's get into it a little bit. So the very first step, Cassie mentioned, the very first one is you need a hook that is going to state or indicate that you had a problem. All right. The hook is honestly, it's what's going to stop the scroll. We all have a 3-second attention span. And so you need something that's powerful, that's going to stop that mindless scroll and then focus on what it is that you are saying or what it is that you are writing. There's a lot of pressure here. All right. And I'm not trying to make you scared or anxious about it, but I'm telling you the importance of spending some time here, like with creating a very intentional hook. So one that's going, with having one where that draws your audience in to want to learn more, you got to make sure that it's not random. All right. Instead, it has to be related to your offer, the product that you're leading with, and a problem that you or someone else that you had, or a problem that your product solves. So these stories don't necessarily need to be your own. They could be of somebody else that you know. All right.
Mhm.
So for those of you like, I don't have a story yet, you can leverage other people's stories. Testimonials are a powerful thing. Okay. So for this workshop, we're going to use an example, and we're going to break these 5 steps down, and we're going to use the example around migraines. Okay. So let's just say that problem is going to be migraines, and then we have a product that helps alleviate the symptoms and cuts the time down of experiencing one in half, or it could prevent it from coming on at all. I know, Cassie, you're unfortunately having to I know you personally have to deal with migraines way more than I do, but I know it's a tough one.
It is.
So, and I know sometimes that because growing up, my mom had migraines, and sometimes people can experience it 3 to 5 times a month. So, when you have a specific problem, you want to kind of identify like certain key words, the certain problems that people experience with migraines, and you want to write those down. And then in order to, that way you could identify the keywords. Then to create a hook that has these keywords inside of it, you're going to do a little bit of research. Okay. One of my best recommendations for you, we have 2 ways of creating a solid hook. Is one, we recommend just doing a Google search. So, for example, migraines and moms. That seems to go hand in hand, unfortunately, and it totally sucks. But those are 2 keywords that you could do a Google search, and then you could also type in magazines.
Mhm.
Magazines are some pretty powerful places to find headlines. And the reason is that they have a tougher job. They have to stop somebody walking mindlessly in a store.
Yes.
Like, so
Mhm.
they get paid some pretty big bucks to create a very quality headline or a hook, something that stops their attention and be able to tune on in. So I like to take that to my advantage, and I'll just do a Google search. So some keywords that I did when we were creating this particular workshop was I just typed in migraines, moms, and magazines. That was it. And then I hit the images. All right, I didn't look at all the other stuff. I wanted to see the images, to see the magazine covers. And some of the headlines that came up on those magazines were Your Guide to Conquering Migraines, The Headache Center That Changed My Life, and I'm Living a Life That I Never Could Have Imagined. I was like, all of these are great.
Yes.
So now from there, you want to go to Pinterest and type in social media hooks or TikTok hooks or anything, just something hooks, for them to kind of understand. Obviously, like this is what it is, for social media specifically. So I typed in that social media hooks, and this is what I found, and it's literally these 3 things. This is how I found. Are you struggling too? And I wish I knew this earlier. So I wrote those 3 down as well. Now, because we live in a world where we cannot copy other people's works because it's very, very poor on our own practice, what we can do is use those things as templates, and we can use those words and even our other keywords and mesh them together. So I took those for, the both of those little lists, and I combined the 2 to make it sound more like me. So some 3 of these hooks that I created was, I think I finally found something to conquer my migraines. ... Another one I made was, I don't know about you, but I just found the solution that changed my life regarding my migraines. And the third one is, I wish I knew that all supplements aren't the same earlier, as I'm finally living a life I never could have imagined experiencing again. And then it would go into the next part, which Cassie is about to dive on into.
Yeah. Before I dive into that, though,
Yes.
I love that whole, using Google search magazine cover, guys. I mean, that's a simple and easy, free way, right, to find those headlines, find those trigger words, because those people get paid big bucks to capture their specific audience, right? So leverage that. But if you're looking for something that's more like AI, I came across Jasper. I think it's called Jasper now. Um, and it's like an amazing AI that writes all kind of posting styles for you, headlines, optimal search. They have an optimal search engine that goes through, like Google, what are people searching? What are their key topics? What are they asking in that industry? And it writes it for you. Like you can set the tone of voice. You can put in like some of your keywords, and then it magically, I don't know, puts in this whole thing. So when I first was starting out, I leveraged Jasper a lot because of the fact that it wrote my content for me, and I could go in and I could change certain words or change different things to make it sound like myself, right? Because we're not in the copy and paste world. But I get it. Sometimes we need help because in the beginning, I was not a strong copywriter, and I needed something visually to see, and then it would hit me. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I can move this around. So if you want, I do have a referral link because I do have an account with them still. If you want that referral link, just put Jasper below and we'll connect with you back after we get done. So now that you have your headline, my tip to you is write them out 10 times. Okay. Not just the same one over and over. This isn't a spelling test and writing definitions over and over, okay? So this means 10 different headlines. If you are writing one, like Sarah Lynn said, I think I finally found something to conquer my migraines. That's one. You could go, number 2 is, I don't know about you, I just found a solution that changed. So see, she had 3 written out. I encourage you to write at least 10, because then what you can do is go back and look at those and choose what best suits you. But then in the long run, you already have 10 already written out that you could use throughout this month's content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after you've created your hook, you then want to move into step 2, which is share how the problem personally impacted and affected you negatively. Okay. And I know you might be thinking, like, negatively. Hang tight with me, okay? So for this exercise, I'm going to ask you, you're going to be using your hook that you created earlier. Okay, so think of a hook. If you didn't write one down where one just kind of magically popped in your head, follow the same pattern with migraines. So then that way you have an example to come back to. Okay, so choose one of those hooks, and then we are going to take the one like, I wish I knew that all supplements are the same earlier on, as I'm finally living a life that I could never imagine experiencing again, right? So, because not all supplements are the same, right? And some people think that. Some people think, oh, I already took that supplement, or I took something like that. It's not going to work for me. Okay, they're not the same. So from there, I'm going to expand even further by sharing more about the personal story. Like, why is this so impactful to me? Like, what is my story behind it on how migraines personally impacted me negatively? Because remember, you're drawing in on those emotions. Okay. If it affected you, if the problem you had, obviously it was a problem and it affected you negatively, right? A problem doesn't impact you positively. So let's make sure that your hook flows well with the story. The story, let me explain. So my story is, since I was 16, I've dealt with migraines. I'm talking about the kind of migraines that your head feels like it's going to explode. The pain just wants to make you like take your head and slam it into a wall, because for some reason that just makes you think that it's just going to feel better. It's just going to alleviate that pain if I could just slam my head into a wall. Okay. Light triggers it. It makes your eyeballs feel like 1,000 needles, right? That light sensitivity. My son actually just came home yesterday from a migraine, his first migraine that he's had, and he'll be 15 in December. And I'm like, oh, please no. But he told me, he's like, Mom, the light is killing me. Can you make the room darker? And I was like, yes, I can. And I love his heart because he Google searched while he was in school, what can I do for a migraine at school? I love his heart of researching. Yeah. But it was get away from electronic devices. And he's like, I'm in math. It's all on a computer and, find a dark room. So it could be kids, it could be women, it can be moms, it could be anybody that struggles with migraines. You get it when somebody else tells you they have a migraine if you've experienced that problem. So these migraines caused me to miss school when I was a teenager. Work. I remember there was one time I had to call into work because I was laying on my bathroom floor just thinking like, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die. Like I can't come into work. It's made me miss out on experiences with my kids because mommy simply had to go back to bed. I mean, my kids didn't understand the concept of a migraine until yesterday. My son was like, oh, now I know how you feel. And I'm like, yeah, why do you think I go to bed, and I sleep? So you see how that story was personal. It had pain points. It's how it impacted me negatively. And not only myself, but those that were around me, right? It affected my boss because I couldn't come in. It affected my kids because I couldn't be coherent or present or anything with them.
Yes. So and that's the thing, like when you share about how it impacts negatively, it's kind of like twisting the emotional knife. Like you're sharing from your perspective. This is that story as to what about this, particular problem that you stated in the hook or alluded to in the hook. And now you're sharing why this was such a problem. After sharing that, though, that's when you want to introduce your solution. Now, you're not about to just word vomit about how great your product is and all the different facts about it. You still want to keep things personal. Okay. So when and here's the thing, like before I even expand on this post by introducing the solution, just keep in mind, like I said, there's so many different things. Like you can name your product. That's okay. We're able to get away with that now, more marketing sense. Actually, some people are preferring that, but you want to kind of focus on what makes it unique instead of what it is that you've tried in the past before. So each product has something unique about it versus, all the different things. Like, and I'm not just saying like, oh, my product has your unicorn tears in it. Like you want to kind of share a little bit about like, hey, this is unique and here's the benefit to it. So here's an example, continuing on with this story and this particular post we're creating here. So with the solution, this is how you could potentially word it. So thankfully, 2 years ago, I found a solution that finally worked for me after countless years of trying anything and everything under the sun. What I found was a once a day supplement that has liquid vitamin B12 that rapidly absorbs into my mouth rather than becoming neutralized in my stomach. Right there is the uniqueness. After stating that solution, so it was pretty sweet, short and sweet. Like you don't have to go in much further. You don't have to share all the different uniqueness. You can save those for another post. So after stating that, you're going to then move into step 4, where you're going to briefly share about how it impacts you in a positive way, but then also getting personal again. So here's an example expanding it from there. So after you state that solution, you might write, giving me results or relief in as little as 15 minutes. What's great is that if I catch my migraine in time, which by the way, I've noticed is becoming fewer and further in between, I'm able to stop it dead in its tracks. What's even better was that my son noticed that I was starting to feel one coming on, and he told me that it's okay if I miss his game that day, that he understands that I'll be in pain. The look in his eyes when he saw me walk into the gymnasium was priceless. I now have hope that I won't be missing any more games. That's personal. And here's the thing about that particular story is that it's specific. It's a specific little anecdote that you include in there versus just sharing about how it's relieved you of so many different things or different ailments. So I don't know about you, but if Cassie, I know that's something that you've struggled with your boys and migraines coming on. When you hear something like that, a little anecdote, what happens to you?
Oh, my heart goes out, especially at the end, like, my son saw me come into the gymnasium. He thought I was going to be out with a migraine, and moms that struggle with migraines, they get that. It connects. You're like, oh, like tear, in the eye. And that's, my own story kind of thing. But it still connects because you're pulling that emotion to it. You're resonating with your audience and your ideal prospect there. They get it. They're like, oh my God, if I could only go to my kid's game and not like have to wear earmuffs or earplugs because of the sounds and wear my shades because of the light. Like, what you gave them back that hope. You gave them a little bit of that hope. And
Right.
so
Well, before you hop on, I just want to give a shout out. I see Tracy
hey,
Ann. Hey,
I saw
friend.
her on.
And then we got stupid StreamYard. But we wanted to say hello. And it's okay. We're just glad that you're
Oh,
here. All
yes.
right. Go for it, girlfriend.
Okay. So now that after you've walked through the first, the 4 steps, and you stated that positive impact of your solution, right? You have the negative and then you end on a positive. It's time to move on to your call to action. Something that I was diving into at the beginning. I was like, call to action, call to action.
So you got so
Right.
excited.
I know. I'm always excited. So much energy bottled up inside of me. So it can be something as simple, guys. Call to actions don't need to be a mile long. They don't even have to be like all of these like things, right? A call to action is simple as you want more info on how I regained my life back and free of that head pounding, life crippling migraine, comment me, right? Do you want to, another simple call to action is, do you want to be able to show up to your kid's game pain-free or head-free or, migraine-free? Be careful when you're creating. So before I continue, because something just popped in my head, be careful of the words and the claims that you're using and be aware of your FTC guidelines within your company of claiming things like migraine-free. You can talk about even pain-free, but even that's why we use words like regained my life back, free of the head pounding, life crippling, things that were going on inside my head. Because you do want to be aware of the FTC guidelines. That way you don't get in trouble and your company doesn't get in trouble. So, and it could be simple, like let's connect, drop me below. It can be an emoji. Your call to action is getting them to take action and say yes, that they hear you, feel you, and need what you've got because they're tired of that struggle too. They're tired of that negative impacting their life. So, you guys ready to put this all together? Okay, so we're going to use our hook. Okay, and that was, I wish I knew that all supplements aren't the same earlier on, as I'm finally living a life that I never could have imagined experiencing again. Okay, and then we go into the story, that negative impact. So let me explain. Since I was 16, I've dealt with migraines. I'm talking about the kind where it feels like your head is going to explode, pain that makes you want to slam your head into the wall and be done with it all. The light that makes your eyeballs feel like 1,000 needles are going through them if you open them. These sorts of migraines caused me to miss school, work, life experiences with my kids, simply because mommy had to go back to bed. So now we're moving into that state of solution. Okay. So thankfully, 2 years ago, I found a solution that finally worked for me after countless years of trying anything and everything under the sun. What I found was once a day supplement that has liquid vitamin B12 that rapidly absorbed into my mouth rather than becoming neutralized in my stomach, giving me relief in as little as 15 minutes. What's great is that I could catch my migraine in time, which, by the way, I've noticed have become fewer and fewer, farther between, and I'm able to stop it dead in its tracks. What's even better was my son noticed I was starting to feel one come on, and he told me it's okay that if I didn't make it to his game today, that he understands that I'm in pain. So the look in his eyes when I walked into the gymnasium was priceless. I now have hope that I won't be missing any more games. And then now we're going to go into that call to action. Want more info on how I regained my life back free of that head pounding, life crippling migraine? Comment the word me and I'll be sure to connect. So you guys see how that kind of flowed, where you introduced like what you were going to be talking about with that headline, going into that negative problem that you have, and then sharing that state of solution, and then going into how it personally impacted you for the better, and then adding in that call to action.
Yep. And that's it. That's how you create a post that triggers your audience to buy. Did you notice how we didn't necessarily bring up the product's name? Not that it's a bad thing. Like I said earlier, it's not a bad thing if you do. But instead, we focused that it's what made the product unique instead. That's really, really important when it comes to marketing terms. We also didn't even mention a sale. Now, we could have, but it would have been most likely briefly and at the end with the call to action. Okay. Something as a little bit of a way of creating a little bit more urgency or FOMO. But I didn't lead. We do not lead with that sale. We
No.
lead with the problem first. Okay. But the bottom line is the post, when you want to create an effective post that sells, you want to lead with emotions conveyed through a story that your audience will likely tune in, they will relate to, and read because you connected with them at a personal level. Rather than blaring neon lights like flashing and using all the emojis possible and all the different fonts, sharing about the latest sale.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care.
Yes.
They're not coming on to buy, they're coming on to connect.
So Anne had asked a good question. How often can or should we use this kind of posting style?
It's a really good question. So this sort of posting style, honestly, if you're trying to create a post that sells your product on Facebook, for example, and you post once a day, you should maybe only do this 1 to 2 times a week. Okay. If you're posting 3 times a week, then you should only be doing this once a week, if that. So it really is going to depend on it. Other platforms, like TikTok is going to be a little bit different. TikTok, you could be a little bit more salesy. People, there's a culture around it where it's like TikTok made me buy it.
Yeah.
Whereas Facebook is very, very different. But I'm not saying even on TikTok where you want to include some other fun things for people to
Right.
get to know you too.
I was going to say Facebook is more of a platform for people to get to know you, like you, and trust you. You need to be relatable. You need to have your lifestyle post in there, maybe inspiration post. And then, like Sarah Lynn said, if you're only posting 3 times a week, only do this once. Because if you're continually to sell to somebody and this is your post all the time, it's not going to work for you, because you're gonna take that audience that you have and they're going to go "Wah!" like that, because it's the same type of post over and over. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. And I just encourage you, when you do these, use different stories. You can repurpose your story, but share that at like another time of day or another, like a few weeks later or something like that. Like repurpose it later on. So, identify your own personal stories and list them out. So that way you have, potentially 6, 10, 20 different posts that you can create, and then you could rotate them through. If you have other testimonials within your team, use their stories too. Like you could even, like, if you have a picture with them, like, let me introduce you to my friend Sam. Something like that. There's so many different ways that you could do it, but just bottom line is follow that structure that we shared with you today. Having that hook that states the problem, how it impacted you negatively, sharing the solution, how did that impact you positively, and then having the call to action. That's a very common and popular formula that's really, really going to be really helpful. So to leverage. So great question. But let's wrap things up. I just saw it's 30, almost 35 minutes. By the way, did you guys like this style where you see both of our faces and we're kind of going back and forth and everything? Drop a yes. We love it. If you do, we know they're going to be a little bit longer, but that's because we want to make sure that there's a lot of value that we provide you here, especially since we trimmed out the two and we kind of combined it into one. Now, one thing we want you to know is that if you're looking for additional information about, different marketing hacks, leveraging modern day marketing hacks and different ways to leverage social media instead of just winging it, we have a mini series called the Next Level Marketers Method. And Cassie put it in the description above that you could easily click on the first one. It's a 4-part series, it's free. You guys could go ahead and dive on in where you can learn a more in-depth explanation on how to share your product or opportunity with your prospects. So go ahead, tune into that if you want some more information and just to learn a little bit more. And that's that.
It's in the
So,
guide section, guys, of this group that you're already a part of. If you're on YouTube and you want that freebie mini course, then you have to come join our group, right? Because we have that for you guys for that reason. If you've already been through it, great. If not, or maybe you have, but do it again. See if there's anything new, because as you're growing, as you're learning, as you're developing, sometimes there's other things that kind of pop to play in your head when you go back through a training. You're like, how did I miss that the first time? It's because you weren't there last time, whereas you've grown. So yeah, I encourage you guys to take a look at that and let us know if you have any questions.
Absolutely. And by the way, guys, we're going to challenge you this Friday for Promote Yourself Friday.
Yes.
Go ahead and leverage this formula. All right. We want to see your action. And if you get a sale out of it, that's fantastic. But just keep an eye out for that thread. That way you guys can go ahead and practice what we preach right away. That's it, guys. So
Awesome.
talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.